Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Lydia Kyle. I am an avid reader, book lover, book reviewer, and book collector, and I'm so glad you're here. Every single month, I like to tell you guys what my best book and my worst book of the month were. And this is the month of February, and I have some opinions about the reads that I had in February. I had one DNF, I had one book that I hated, and I had one book that I loved. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. If you love bookish content, you can check out all of my other videos, but let's dive into February. I always like to start with the bad news first. Okay, so we're gonna go worst to best. First, I'm gonna tell you the DNF for this month. My DNF for this month was Godsgrave by Jay Kristoff. This is book 2 in the Nevernight trilogy. I was really surprised that I DNF'd this one. I loved the first book. There were a few red flags for me, I'm not gonna lie, but I was willing to go there for book 2. Book 2, it got too dark for me. I couldn't go there. It got dark, it got demonic, it wasn't sitting well with me, and honestly, it read more like horror than fantasy, and I just didn't feel right continuing. I DNF'd this about 50 pages in, and I just felt like, you know what? This isn't my vibe, and I'm okay with that, which is really surprising because I love Jay Kristoff's book. Typically, Jay Kristoff, I can go into the dark with him because I feel like when we come out on the other side, there's not a happy ending, but good usually wins. I felt like in this book, evil was going to win, and I just wasn't down for that. All right, worst book of the month. This was such a letdown. This was such a letdown. I have several complaints with this book. This is Rebel Witch, second book of the Crimson Moth duology. The first book is Heartless Hunter. I didn't love the first book, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't necessarily have high hopes for this, but I at least felt like it could have been a solid finish to a duology. I love a duology. An author who can complete a fantasy in 2 books, I love it. For example, One Dark Window. That's an amazing fantasy duology. This is a flop, okay? The writing, not great. The plot twist was given away within the first 30 pages, and it made the rest of the book feel absolutely pointless because we knew how it was going to end. You literally gave us the ending at the beginning and expected us to be shocked. It was so obvious. Not to mention the miscommunication trope and the enemies to lovers, it went on for too long. How long can you draw this out? The back and forth, the scheming, the manipulating, the backstabbing, it just wasn't giving romance, let alone good romance. I was over it by the end of it. I won't lie, by the end of this book, I was skimming it. That said, my biggest complaint with this, why is this being marketed as young adult fantasy? There is intimacy on page, the characters are not in the young adult age category, and there's explicit content in here. So why is this being marketed as young adult fantasy when this is obviously new adult fantasy, if not adult fantasy? I don't understand the classifications right now. It's really irritating to me when I pick up a young adult book and I expect it to have young adult appropriate content and there's explicit content on page. It just irks me. Let's end on a happy note, shall we? Best book of the month. I am shocked that this is my best book of the month, but I am so glad that it is my best book of the month. This is I Hope This Doesn't Find You by Liang. It is a young adult rom-com. It is truly young adult. Very age appropriate, no polarizing content on page. It is about a female main character who has her emails leaked. And her emails are kind of like nasty grams that she's written. It's how she vents about the things that are going wrong, the things she doesn't like about her classmates. People have taken advantage of her in the classroom because she's an overachiever and a people pleaser. And someone leaks those emails and it goes out to the whole school. And the one person who got the most emails was her academic rival, who turns out to be her romantic interest. Like I said, very age appropriate, witty banter, good writing, good pace, good length, not too long. I wish I would have found this when I was in high school. However, I have to admit, it wasn't even written when I was in high school. But this is probably one of the best young adult rom-coms, romances that I've ever read. And it is absolutely a big recommendation if you have any teenage girls in your life. I can highly recommend this to you in good faith, knowing that it is age appropriate and a fantastic story. There you go, best and worst for the month of February. If you read any of the books that I mentioned in today's video, let me know. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my thoughts. Also, if you go back to my last video, which I will have as a suggestion at the end of this one, you'll be able to see all of the books that I read in February, and I give a detailed review of each one, why I liked it and why I didn't like it. And there were several highly anticipated releases that I read in the month of February, so you'll definitely want to check that out. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, and if you have, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you're here. Let me know in the comments if you're a new subscriber. I love to connect with you guys. We'll see you next time for more bookish content. Bye.